we've already said that the tractate of Bava Metzia, these 10 chapters, are about essentially interpersonal contracts between one person and another. Bava Kama is about damages. Bava Batra is going to be about shared property. Bava Metzia is about contracts between two people. And it's really fascinating that we are going to get into employment contracts right at the end of the 9th chapter. So it seems as if the Mishnah is much more interested in contracts related to renting out land than it is in contracts related to renting out people. I don't know why. Maybe, and we've seen this before, of course, in the Mishnah of Shabbat, that the Mishnah is generally interested in edge cases, in difficult cases. And in terms of renting out people, actually the Torah is incredibly specific. So there are a couple of verses, a couple of pasukim, which we can look at, and they articulate the halacha. Maybe it's because these verses are so clear that the Mishnah doesn't have very much to say. But let's look at the verses. Let's look at the pasukim. On his day you shall give him his hire. This is referring to someone you hired, you recruited. You have to you have to give it to him, give him his wages on the day. And the sun shouldn't go down on it. As soon as the sun goes down, you transgress. Why? Because he's a poor guy. Ve'elavhu noseh nafsho, and his heart is set on it. Ve'lo yikra alecha el Hashem v'hayav chet, lest he cry against you to God and you have a sin. So it's quite a powerful verse, this. The possibility that you don't pay someone on time is something that is going to trigger a cry of destitution from the worker involved, and it's going to trigger a sin in the eyes of God. It's a very powerful verse. And there's a parallel in Leviticus, in Vayikra. This verse was in Devarim, in Deuteronomy, in Ki Teitzeh, at the end of Deuteronomy. In Vayikra, in Leviticus, lo tashok et re'echa velo tigzol. You shouldn't defraud your re'echa, that could be your neighbor, but it is closer than a neighbor. The re'ah in Song of Songs is a friend, is a lover. It's someone you have a relationship with. Lo tashok et re'echa, you don't defraud your neighbor, velo tigzol, you don't rob him. How do you not rob him? Well, the verse continues, Lo talin pulat sachir itcha ad boker. The wages of someone you hire shouldn't be sitting with you until the morning. They're still the same idea, by the way, that somehow if one day passes, if not more, less than one day, if the night passes, you're in a transgression. But in Vayikra, in Leviticus, this seems to apply to re'echa, your neighbor. And we'll see in a few minutes that the Mishnah is going to learn something from that. But if we've got those two verses in our head, let's just now jump into the Mishnah. We're in the 11th Mishnah of the 9th chapter. Someone who's hired during the day collects his wages all during the night. What are we saying? We're saying that he's working all day. He finishes during the day at the end of the day. So when he finishes, the night is just beginning. And he can collect his wage all through the night. The verse said, Lo talin pulat sachir itcha ad boker. The wages of someone you hire shouldn't be with you all night until morning. And in Devarim, in Deuteronomy, it says, Lo tavo alav hashemesh, the sun shall not go down on it. So it seems as though the morning is a cut-off time, the end of the night, and the evening is a cutoff time, the end of the day. So let's go back to our Mishnah. If you're working during the day, you can collect your wages at the end of the day all night long. And if you're working during the night, someone who works at night can collect his wages all through the day. So there's a 12-hour window. It's an incredibly narrow window he can collect during this time. And then we're going to be a little bit more general now. If you're just hired by the hour, you can basically collect any time during the day or the night. Whenever you finish, you can collect. Schir Shabbat, someone hired by the week. Schir Chodesh, someone hired by the month. Schir Shana, someone hired by the year. Schir Shavua, someone hired by 7 years. All these different terms of employment. Yatsav yom goveh chol hayom. If he finishes during the day, he can collect during the day. Yatsav halayla. If he finishes during the night, goveh chol halayla vechol hayom. If he finishes during the night, actually he can collect during the night and during the following day. So there's a 1 day window. There's a half-day window. So let's see. Let's just expand these out a little bit. Echad tzchar hadam ve'echad tzchar habehema ve'echad tzchar hakelim. It doesn't matter whether you're renting out a person or an animal, a beast, or some item of gear. Maybe you're renting a lawnmower or a bike or a plow. But they're all included in the verse. They're all included. Yesh bo mishem b'yomoti ten scharo. They're all included in the verse that we read. B'yomoti ten scharo. You have to pay him on the same day. V'yesh bo mishem lo talin pulat sachir itcha boker. And they're also included in the wages of a laborer shouldn't remain with you until the morning. In other words, our two verses, the two verses we looked at, they apply to any sort of rental, whether it's contracting a worker or renting an animal or renting some gear like a plow or a bicycle or a car. So the Mishnah is now going to ask. Of course, these are serious duties on the part of the employer. And the Mishnah is going to try to restrict them slightly. Eimatai, so when does this apply? Bisman shetva'o, when the employer claims. When the employer claims. Lo tva'o eino over alav. If he doesn't claim, the employer doesn't transgress. As an employer, you don't make a transgression just if the laborer fails to come along and ask for his money. You're not automatically in transgression. He has to claim. Let's keep going. Kimchahu etzel hachenvani or etzel hashulchani eino over alav. If he gave him an order to a shopkeeper or a money changer, he doesn't transgress. In other words, you don't have to pay cash. You could write out an order to a shopkeeper to give this guy, maybe you've agreed to, maybe the shopkeeper will give him some food equivalent to the quantity of money that is due for his wages. Or the shulchani is actually a money changer. So maybe, and a money changer is effectively a kind of a daytime lender. He's a payday lender too. So you write out an order to a money changer. The worker takes the order to the money changer and he gets cash. So you give him the order within the right time frame. You don't transgress. Eino over alav. Hasachir nishba bizmano v'notel. The employee can swear at the set time. This is during the night if he worked during the day, and during the day if he finished at the end of the night. So it's really interesting. We are sort of restricting the rights of the duties of the employer by allowing him to write out a check effectively. But the worker has got quite a lot of force here. The employee can swear at the same time and take. So normally when you make a claim on somebody else, a civil claim, you go to court, and if the other party wishes to object, they have to take an oath that it's not valid. And of course, this may take time. You have to wait for them to take an oath. The situation is reversed in the case of labor law. The employee can swear that he hasn't been paid. If he hasn't been paid, if he believes he hasn't been paid, he can swear, I haven't been paid at the right time, and he's entitled to take his wages. The employer can't do anything about it. If the time had passed, if he hadn't actually claimed his wages on time, he can't swear and take. In other words, if he doesn't claim at the right time, then that just defaults to a normal civil action. He'd have to make a claim. The employer would have to swear that he made the correct payment if he believed he had, and so on. If there are witnesses that he claimed, and presumably these witnesses not only testify he claimed, but testify he claimed and not been paid, he can just swear and receive. He can swear and take. He can swear and take. So the employee has a lot of power here. What if he's not Jewish? That's the final question. And we talked in the previous Mishnah about reciprocity. To what extent are these halachot reciprocal? And remember that the verse we were looking at, Lo tashok et re'echa velo tigzol, you shouldn't defraud your neighbor and you shouldn't rip him off. Lo talin pulat sachiri techa ad boker, the wages of someone you employ shouldn't be with you all night until the morning. We saw that verse was phrased in the language of re'echa, your neighbor, your associate, your lover. It's a word that indicates intimacy, and the Mishnah is going to interpret it as a word that refers to somebody who's Jewish, who's of your own nation. And so the Mishnah goes on, ger toshav, a resident alien, someone who's living with you, he keeps the commandments of Noach, but he's not Jewish. Yesh bo mishem b'yomot yiten scharo. He's under the law, you must pay him his wages on the same day. So he's included there. He's included in the verse from Deuteronomy because he is included in the... That's a good question. Why is he included in the verse from Deuteronomy? The Ger Toshav he lives with you. He lives with you. He's included in the verse from Deuteronomy. We can look at that later, why that is. A resident alien is under the law. You must pay him his wages on the same day. But he's not under the wages of a laborer shall not remain with you until the morning. So the resident alien has to be paid in the day, but apparently not at night. And to be paid at night, it looks from the Mishnah as if you have to be Jewish. And that's a really interesting anomaly, and maybe one that we'll explore more in the coming days.